Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm gonna give it a minute or two. I'm going to be we're live on TikTok right now and YouTube. Okay, we're gonna go over summer base training for cross country for incoming sophomores. Okay, hope you're all doing well. Hope you brought your questions. And anybody that's on TikTok and you're not watching this on YouTube, I encourage you to come watch it on YouTube because everything here is in writing. Everything's in slides. And for those that are watching on YouTube, if you have questions, put them in the comments and I'll answer them on the fly. Okay. And again, we're going to go over this every single day. Today is going to talk about summer-based training for cross country for high school sophomores. Yesterday we talked about freshmen. Tomorrow we're going to talk about juniors. The day after, seniors. And then we're going to go to college. Incoming freshmen, sophomore, juniors, seniors. We'll be live every day until that series is over. Now we can get an idea of what summer-based training looks like for every year. And you can see the progression from one year to the next. So I thank you all for joining me. And again, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm here to answer them. And again, if you're on TikTok, make sure you tap the screen if you don't mind. If you're on YouTube, please hit that like button as well. Okay, we'll get right into this. Okay, so we'll start again. I'll just say this again too. If you raced, cross country and track both seasons as a freshman, make sure that you're recovering enough before you even go into summer-based training. You want to have sufficient recovery and using summer as a platform to build off what you did last year to put you in a position to do it again next year, but just at a higher level. So what you do in the summer is important, and how much you do in the summer is important, right? So, and I can't emphasize that enough. I really can't. It's very, very important. And again, sequence is key too. A lot of folks ask me on a regular basis, why can't I do workouts in June? Well, why do you need to do workouts in June? Have you recovered yet from a year of racing? That's the question. So the quick logic for me, and you'll see this in the slides here, is the first 4 weeks of the summer is building mileage, get to your goal mileage. Then we add speed development from weeks 5 through 8. Then we add VO2 max, like tempo or threshold or something, to the speed development weeks 9 through 12. Okay, so we'll get right into this. Okay, I'm going to put this up. Weeks 1 through 2. Okay, week 1, Monday 3 miles, Tuesday 4 miles, Wednesdays off, Thursdays 3 miles. Fridays 3 miles, Saturdays 4 miles, Sundays off. Right now, 5 days a week, but no 2 days are going to be consecutive. No off days are going to be consecutive. Week 2, 4 miles Monday, 4 miles Tuesday, off Wednesday, 4 miles Thursday, 4 miles Friday, 4 miles Friday, Sundays off. Relatively straightforward, weeks 1 through 2, right? So, and again, tap that screen on everybody on TikTok. We always want to get the hearts up. And hit the like button on YouTube. I greatly appreciate it. So now, week 3 and 4. There's consistency here again. You say Monday, 4 miles, Tuesday, 5 miles. Wednesdays off, Thursdays, 5 miles, Fridays, 4 miles, Saturdays, 5 miles, Sundays off. And week 4, Mondays, 4 miles, Tuesdays, 5 miles, Wednesdays off, Thursdays, 5 miles, Fridays, 4 miles, Saturdays, 5 miles, Sundays off. So in the first 4 weeks, you're consistently taking off Wednesday and Wednesday and Sunday. So that you're running 2 days and then an off day. And then you're running 3 days and an off day. And that consistent pattern remains weeks 1 through 4, right? That's the adaptation here. You're slowly getting back into running, okay? That's one of the first things you want to do is get yourself up running consistently and put yourself in a position to transition into the next phase. Now, weeks 5 through 8, we're going to go to the usual off every other Sunday instead of having the 2 days off per week. So that's what I do. Freshman year and sophomore year in high school, I have my athletes take off every Sunday. It's up to you to decide as a coach or an athlete whether you want to do something different. But we got a comment on the YouTube channel here. Tommy, what's happening? You need to start strides at least. I started them at week 5. Tommy, I started them at week 5. Because the first 4 weeks, and it's up to other people to decide differently, but the first 4 weeks, I build up to the mileage without adding any acceleratory running. That's the adaptation in weeks 1 through 4. Then strides happen weeks 5 through 8. So, but that's just my experience as a coach. Other folks can do differently, obviously. Okay, so here, weeks 5, Mondays 4 miles, Tuesday 4 miles, and we're adding 3 times 50-meter sprints uphill. Wednesdays 4 miles, Thursdays 4 miles, Friday 4 miles, then 3 times 100 meters on the flat. Okay, Saturday long run 6 miles now. Sundays off. Okay, now uphill sprints are added on Tuesday, flat sprints are added Friday. the speed development has begun at the end of the runs. Okay. Week 6, 4 miles on Monday, 4 miles on Tuesday, with 4 times a 50-meter uphill. Now we added one 50-meter uphill acceleration. Let me put you on this side here. Second game. There you go. Better. 4 times a 50-meter uphill on Tuesday. 5 miles Wednesday. Thursday's 4 miles. Friday's 4 miles, and 4 times 100 meters on the flat. So we added 1 acceleration on the uphills on Tuesday and 1 on Friday. Long run 6 miles. Sunday's an off day. Okay, so we're at the long run is at 6 miles right about now. Okay, if you're running 6 days a week. So that's weeks 5 through 6 at speed development. Now we're going to build on that. Okay. Week 7, 5 miles Monday. Tuesday, 5 miles, 3 times 100-meter uphill. So there's longer strides on the uphill now. Okay. 4 miles Wednesday, 5 miles Thursday, 4 miles Friday, 3 times 150 flat afterward. 6 miles Saturday, Sunday's an off day. Week 8, 5 miles Monday, 5 miles Tuesday with 4 times 100 uphill. Okay. Added 100-meter acceleration uphill. 5 miles Wednesday, 5 Thursday, 3 Friday, or 4, but I do 3, and then 4 times 150 flat. Okay, afterward, and then 7 miles in the long run. So I cut the Friday run back a mile. I added a mile to the long run. Okay, and that's Saturday, and then off day Sunday. So you've got 4 weeks of speed development added to the mileage that you already built. Okay, and again, keep tapping that screen, everybody here. And again, if you have questions in the comments on YouTube, put them in here. Put them in here. Thank you, Tommy, for your question. So we've added speed development for the next 4 weeks. That's the dynamic to adapt to here. And it takes 3 to 4 weeks to adapt to a training stimulus, right? So that's called periodization. Now, weeks 9 through 12. Now is when we start incorporating the VO2 max initial, which is tempo and threshold. Okay? This is essentially what I do. You can do differently, but I found this to be highly successful in coaching runners, middle distance and distance, especially in getting ready for cross country. Okay? So now, weeks 9, 5 miles Monday, 5 miles Tuesday, 3 times 150 uphill now, 5 Wednesday, 5 Thursday, Friday. Now you do your warm up, your drills and strides. Let's just say it's a mile, mile and a half, whatever it might be. Now the workout is 2 times a mile with a 2-minute recovery at tempo pace, and 2 by 200 meters on the flat afterward with the jog eagle recovery, and then a cool down, mile, mile and a half afterward. Right? That's the cool down. 6 miles Saturday, off day Sunday. So now tempo is the first hit here, and then we added some speed development on the back end of the tempo, which simulates what? Accelerating when you're already tired. That simulates the end of a race, right? But now we're doing it in a very, very low-key manner, okay? Let's see if we can get over 1,000 hearts on the screen here on TikTok, so greatly appreciate you. We got another comment on YouTube. We have coached high school and college and post-college. Tommy. And I'm also USATF certified. I'm also Wharton trained, Jim and Phil Wharton, musculoskeletal flexibility therapist and active isolated flexibility. So those are the credentials there. And I have my USATF credential on my YouTube page, on the front of the page. My certification number, my credential number. Week 10, 5 miles Monday, 5 Tuesday, 4 times 150 uphill afterward. 5 miles Wednesday, 5 miles Thursday. Friday, workout, warm up, drills and strides. Same mile, mile and a half, whatever you warm up. 3 times 1K with a 1-minute recovery at threshold pace. Okay, the volume's gonna be pretty low right now because you're only approaching sophomore year in high school. And then after your 3 times 1K threshold, do 3 times 200 on the flat. So you got your VO2 max with the threshold, and then you add some speed development. We got some common questions here on TikTok. What do I think about lifting 4 times a week during the summer while building mileage? As long as it's functional lifting and not too heavy, that's okay. What you do to get better in cross country? You got way better track, but you didn't transfer to cross country. Got to run over the summer, Caden. Run over the summer. That's what's going to really, really set you up for success in cross country. Coach, going to do tempos once a week during the summer. My tempos have gotten slower. Help. Well, it's too early to do tempos right now. Have you even recovered from outdoor track season yet? And why are you doing tempos so early in the summer? And this is why I have this stuff set up here with the slides, because I want folks to look at this, right? And this is one reason why I have a new dynamic added to the training each 4 weeks. Okay. Mike, the amount of miles. Does it negatively affect your speed from previous track seasons? No. Because the increases, and this is another reason why I do this stuff on YouTube and on TikTok too, because the progressions need to be very methodical and gradual. So like I have folks ask me, how do I go from 30 to 60 miles a week? Why would you go from 30 to 60? Right? Go from 30 to 40. Okay. And this is where the high school increase in volume has to be less than the college increase in volume. Why? Because you're racing more frequently in high school. So you've got to adapt to that and you've got to recover from that. Whereas college, you race less frequently. So you can add bigger blocks to the training. You can increase by a greater amount. And you'll see that. This is one reason why I'm doing this every year. I mean, every year, the next week or so, because I want you to see what the difference is from incoming Sophs to incoming juniors to seniors and so on. You can see the progression. That's a great question. How do I know your threshold pace for the 1Ks? I would base it on even what you ran the most recent mile in, even in the outdoor season. Base your training pace off to that, because at the end of the cross country at the end of the summer, I test people at a mile again, and that allows you to set their training paces for cross country moving forward. So week 10, 5 miles Monday, 5 miles 4 by 150 uphill. Okay, we did that already. And then the threshold, 3 times 1K, 3 times 200 meters on the flat, 7 miles Saturday, Sundays off. So now your tempo 1 week, threshold the next week. That's this alternating cycle here. Tommy, how do I determine tempo pace? You said he to go off right now fitness level. You go off current fitness level. How do you know if you haven't raced or done a time trial? If you raced or did a time trial, then you can base it off that. I always say that too. Okay, but if you haven't, then I base it off what they ran the most recent mile performance in the outdoor season. That's what I set the paces. And then the reason why I test them at the end of the summer again is to set the new training paces, because if they run faster for that mile, it sets the training paces appropriately for them for the cross-country season, if that makes sense. Peak mileage you're building to? Well, it really depends. But, you know, and I've got, I would take a look at it too, because on my YouTube channel, I've got broken down the type of mileage ballpark figures to shoot for soft, junior, and senior. But as a sophomore, I mean, you're looking at, let's just say you're looking at 30 to 35 miles per week conservatively. Some people run a little bit more, some people run a little bit less. And that mileage varies per athlete. So, and again, it's a good question. So, but peak mileage is, you know, the other thing is too, peak fitness is what you want to gain, not peak mileage. And how do you do that? You get to the right areas. And this is where periodization sets you up successfully, because you're adapting. And once you get to the point where your mileage is at, you're leveled off to where you want to be, then you can start incorporating other things into the training. And if you have a day off every week or every other week, it makes it easier for you to training and recover at the same time. So peak mileage, once you're there, you can level off. And like I said, if you have an off day every other week, and if you're averaging the same amount of mileage per day, whether you're on 7 days or 6 days, you can sustain that peak training for a longer period of time. So this is both speed and endurance. Yes, you want combining both, most definitely. Yeah, does it help? Yes. And this is why I start. You know, this is why to simplify this before I go to the last 2 weeks. This is why I do get to your new goal mileage in June. Let that be the adaptation. Then add speed development, which translates to middle distance runners and distance runners across the board. Get that back into your training in July. And then after that, for 4 weeks, then you add this type of stuff to complement. See, if you notice, I'm not replacing speed development with threshold stuff. I'm complementing it with it. I've added threshold to speed development. I just put the speed development on the back end of the threshold to simulate the end of a race, which is what it's going to be like on cross-country races. So keep in mind, too, I said this yesterday, cross-country is the only season where the weather gets cooler throughout the season and not the other way around. So what you do to set yourself up for success is important. This is why sequence in the summer it matters so much. Another question here, trying to get out of sub 19 this season. Last season pretty much did no summer training and I ran 21. You can if you run over the summer, Drew, yes. You'd be surprised at how much benefit summer running will do for you. So you do tempos in July, even if that's when I start running for cross country. No, if you're not gonna start until July, then I wouldn't start doing tempos until August. And if you race internationals, if you race late in the season, then I would start cross country season late. I would not cut your summer base training just because you went late into the track season. You should be rewarded for being going into the track season. That's good for you, right? So I would start cross country late and give you a full summer base training. If I don't do tempos this early, but I want to do one workout a week, you're gonna do fartleks. Well, depends on if you've done. Did you do a couple of weeks of just base running? I wouldn't do any workouts until you've done a couple of weeks of just base running. That's to keep you healthy too, to make sure that there's no onset soreness, to make sure you're not getting hurt either. So I wouldn't do anything until I have about 4 weeks of base running under the legs. You're in week 6, okay, now you can do far. Sure. If you're in week 6, now you can do fartleks and even tempos. Yes. Now, weeks 11 and 12, the last one here. And thank you for all hanging with me on YouTube too. Okay. Weeks 11, Monday, 5 miles. Tuesday, 6 miles. 3 times a 200-meter uphill. Wednesday's 5 miles. Thursday's 5 miles. Friday. Now you're combining what you did 2 weeks ago with the 2 times a mile tempo. Now it's a 10 to 12-minute consecutive tempo. Okay. Then you take, let's just say, a 5-minute recovery. Then you do 2 times a 250 on the flat afterward. Okay. And that's obviously after a warm up, and then you cool down afterwards. So 7 miles Saturday, and you're off on Sunday. Week 12, 5 miles Monday, and this is let's just say it's the final week of summer base training. 6 miles Tuesday, 4 times a 200 uphill. 6 miles Wednesday, 4 miles Thursday. Then you warm up your drills and strides on Friday, and this is when I test people on a mile to see how they did over the summer. And this will tell you who put the work in over the summer and who didn't put the work in over the summer. And also how lets you set the expectations in training for cross country appropriately. If people are behind, last thing you want to do is cram them to try to rush, because that can get them hurt. So this is why a time trial is so important here. And you take an 8-minute recovery, and you do 4 times 250 on the flat afterward, just for a little bit of turnover. And then you cool down, 6 miles Saturday, off on Sunday. And that right there is your summer base training for incoming sophomores. Pretty simple, but the philosophy remains, right? First 4 weeks. Yeah, we got a comment and a question on YouTube. Mike, you have a question about like core lifting, core stuff that lost. When it comes to lifting and core, I do a lot of functional stuff. Running specific lifting, running specific core exercises, lower back and stuff. It doesn't need to be super heavy because you do not want to compromise posture. You want to make sure you're doing good forms. If you're going to do you can do a combination stuff where you could do squats and shoulder presses, right? Backward lunges and arm curls, forward lunges and med ball twists. That way you're involving the lower body and the upper body and the core at the same time. It all remains functional in nature. Okay? You don't need to go super heavy, do Olympic style lifting right now. You don't. So one lifting counts as too heavy. The other day I did a 5x5 2. That's if that's not heavy for you, but generally in the summer right now, 3 sets of 10 or 12 at a lighter weight is more appropriate for summer base training. But again, this could vary per athlete. It really can. So anybody else have any questions? Tomorrow, we're going to do summer base training for incoming juniors. That's going to be the next training we're going to talk about. Your week and how many times did you do tempos in a week? In the summer, 1. You don't need to do multiple workouts in a week on the summer. Summer is about building, recovering, and building towards the next season or the next year of a bunch of racing. Essentially, you'll be if you run cross country indoor and outdoor, you're essentially racing almost 9 months in a row. So those 3 months, you want to make sure you're doing the right things. You're recovering, setting yourself up to do that again at a higher level, which is why you don't need to do a whole tons of workouts in summer. You really don't. About training by heart rate. If you're training at the right paces, Luke, based on what you run, then you're putting yourself in a position to be training at the heart rate. But as it pertains to heart rate too, keep in mind, if you're running over rolling hills, your heart rate's going to be elevated. If you're running in the heat of the summer, your heart rate's going to be elevated. So I encourage you to run in the coolest parts of the day, which is in the morning, not the night, in the summertime, if you have the ability to do that. I've explained tempo running. I've got tons of videos on that. But yeah, a lot of coaches and athletes don't understand tempo running and how to do. So this is a good point. Okay, thank you, Tommy, for bringing this up. Okay, Let me break this down simple. Whatever you run, let's just say you run. Let's just say you run 4:30 for the mile. Nice, even like an even number. The tempo run is about 55 seconds to a minute slower per mile than what you did. So if you run 4:30, your tempo pace is about 5:25 to 5:30, right? Per mile. And you want to build towards 20 to 25 minutes. But most people can't come out and go out the door right now and run 20 to 25 minutes at that. This is why I have videos on my YouTube channel, on this channel, to build from scratch in pieces to 20 to 25 minutes, because you're exactly right. Most coaches and athletes don't understand. A lot of folks are under the impression that you should be able to do this. You should is not a thing. Okay? It's can you or can you not. And it's up to us as coaches to put our athletes in a position to make sure that they can. Forget should. We're the ones that should be preparing the athletes as coaches, right, for doing the right things. So, but again, that's a simplified right there. Okay, and threshold training is about 8 to 10 seconds faster per mile than tempo running. So if your tempo is a 5:30 pace, your threshold is going to be a 5:20 pace. And you could do broken 800s, let's just say, in 2:38 to 2:40 with a 1 minute recovery. And if you built up to 20 minutes of tempo, you could do 20 minutes of threshold broken into pieces with a 1 minute recovery. And that's VO2 max initial, right? VO2 max specific is 3K pace and 5K pace. And how do you gauge what your equivalents are for 3K and 5K? Testing your athletes in a mile. But I test them when they're fit, not when they're not fit, because it gives you a more accurate representation of what they can actually run for the mile. Okay. Diet is a big factor for summer. Diet, yeah. Diet's good. I want to try to eat as clean as possible and practice things that you're not practicing this summer. Summer is the time to work on things that you haven't really worked on during the season. Practice new things if you want to make changes in the diet. You're not racing. So this is a time to kind of experiment on things that you might want to get better at. So you can do seconds as well. But I generally, and I'll just to simplify this, okay? Because this is something that in 2 decades of coaching, I've seen athletes be able to do, okay? I'm going to give you 6 pieces on how to build the tempo, right? Just like I started here, 2 times a mile. So let's go 2 times 6 minutes with a 2 minute recovery. Then you come back 2 weeks later, then you combine that 12 minutes consecutively, right? Then 2 weeks later, 2 times 8 minutes, 2 minute recovery. 2 weeks after that, 16 minutes combined. 2 weeks later, 2 times 10 minutes, 2 minute recovery. And then 2 weeks later, 20 minutes. This is a way of building in blocks to 20 minutes consecutively and giving your athletes a chance to adapt by running at the right paces based on what they've recently run for a mile. Okay? So, and again, I have this broken down here and on my YouTube channel. Broken down for you. Everything's in writing. Okay? And that's an easier way to do it. And if you build towards 25 minutes, you can start at 2 times 7.5 minutes and then go to 15 minutes. Then 2 times 10 minutes, go to 20 minutes. And 2 times 12.5 minutes, go to 25 minutes. There's ways you can break it into pieces, either in 6 parts, in 4 parts, whatever's most appropriate for you as a coach, because you as a coach know your athletes better than anybody else does. Your athletes know their bodies as well. This is a way of taking some of that fear out of a tempo run, because people are like, I got to run that hard, because it's a comfortably hard pace for an extended period of time. And if people are not used to that, it's up to us to put them in a position to build towards it, to make it easy or make it easier, right? And that's how we can do it. So does that make sense, Tommy? Does that make sense to you guys here? How many exercises I do per day? You choose a selection. I generally do about 5 to 6 exercises functionally in a day before I do my cardio stuff. That's generally what I do. And my strength training is all, set up to that. I'm maintaining my flexibility and range of motion. I'm a longtime martial artist too. So I need to be able to have the mobility to go everywhere at the same time when it comes to kicking or when it comes to running. Long leg days. Yeah, leg days. Generally, if you're going to do just 2 legs, just 2 legs. But I would encourage folks to consider doing legs and upper body at the same time. Like I said, you could do stuff like squats and shoulder presses, or squats and arm curls, squats and shoulder raises, right? A lot of different things you can do. Forward lunge and a med ball twist, right? Forward lunge and a med ball twist. Twisting towards the front leg. Backward lunge and an arm curl. Alternate, okay? That's combining lower and upper at the same time in a functional way, without compromising posture, without going super duper heavy. So best time for speed development is after you got into your goal volume. And then you start incorporating that. Speed development is an all-year thing. But adaptation cannot be ignored. And I've seen way too many athletes and coaches ignore adaptation and just increase and increase and increase. And then you realize why your athletes are either running the best races way too early, or why athletes are getting hurt, and we're not noticing this type of stuff. And I'm speaking from an exercise physiologist background too. So, yeah, 100%, Tommy. You're right. A lot of high school coaches run tempo runs too fast. And the problem with running, and this is a good point too, okay? The problem with, and this is generalized, I'm speaking to everyone here, not just Tommy, okay? Because Tommy's bringing up very, very valuable points here. If you're training, and this is one reason why I also test people at a mile to set the appropriate pace ranges. Because you have a group, let's just say you have 6 people, right? And 3 of them are 5-minute milers. The other 3 are 4:35 milers. But they're going to do the tempo, and even the 5-minute milers can handle the same thing that the 4:30 milers can. They're not going to recover the same way, which is why training at the right pace ranges for everybody is important. It's also important because in cross country, if you want to close the gap, you got to do it on the back end, right? Your 3, 4, 5, 6 runners, you want to get them close to the front of the pack. If they're training at the right training paces, it makes it easier for them to close the gap. If you want to have a 90-second spread or a 45-second spread or a 30-second spread. So making sure that everybody's training at the right training pace is absolutely critical, right? So, but you're right, Tommy. A lot of people do either tempo runs or workouts way too fast. People are like, I run repeat 400s in 54. How come I can't run fast in 204? Because why are you running them in 54? And then why are you taking 10 minutes rest instead of doing 6 of them in 58 or 59 with a 4-minute rest? That's a more appropriate representation if you want to run a fast 800, or 4 of them with a 4-minute recovery. So making it a little bit more specific to the events you're training for is key, but at the appropriate time. Okay, you don't need to do that super fast stuff when you're not ready there, when you're not ready for it yet, especially if you're not going to recover the same way that other people would. That's why I emphasize to an exhaustion training at the right training paces. That's why I talk about right pace ranges and tempos and easy and threshold and all that stuff. Because Tommy's right. Yeah. The same thing here, Tommy. I've coached at the college level as well. I've got 20 plus years of coaching experience. I'm USATF. I'm level 2 certified. I also have strength and conditioning as well, and a CA, the CSCS, Wharton certified as well. Tommy, if you ever want to collaborate and talk about some stuff, you guys can email me. I'm going to put this right here. For those that are in the YouTube right now, here's my email address. I'm putting it right in the comments, and I'm going to put it up on the screen. Those that are on TikTok who want to know what the email address is to reach out to me, make sure you watch the YouTube videos because I put it out on all my YouTube videos. 8-mile long run, but you did 11-mile pace. So you drop a mile. It depends on, Austin, what your week training looks like. Depends on what you're building towards, and whether it's flat, rolling. Keep in mind, rolling is a different recovery component than flat running is. Okay, and you have to make room for pace fluctuations in rolling hills that you don't necessarily have to do on the flats. It's easier to lock into a pace. That's why tempo runs I encourage people to do on the flats. It's easier to lock into a goal pace. Tempo runs, essentially, you're looking at a 5 to 6 seconds range. You're not looking at 30-second range. I'm not going from 6 minutes to 5:20. That's a progression run. That's not a tempo run. So, but that's the email right there, guys. But if you want to talk training and stuff like that, Tommy, please reach out to me. I'd love to chat with you. A lot of hills. Yeah. Hills is a good form of strength development, speed development. It's a non-invasive way of adding speed or building speed as opposed to running fast on the flats, right? Flats take a little bit more out of the legs than hills do. No less effective, but both are important. Okay. So, any other questions, gang, before I wrap it up? Tomorrow, we're going to do summer-based training for high school juniors, and then the next day, high school seniors. And again, I'm going to have the same slides. Everything will be in writing. Okay. And for those that are on TikTok, tap the screen. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And for the YouTubers that are on here, the people that have TikTok, please make sure you follow me on TikTok, because I put an equal amount of content and I get a lot more engagement on TikTok than I do here. It's Access to Coach. That's my TikTok account. It's one word, Access to Coach. But it's plyos good? Yes, plyos. If you're doing it the right way, plyos are good for middle distance running, sprint. Then yes, I would encourage you to do them after a warm up. 40 miles weekly. We got a question here. Last summer, would you jump to 50? If you did 40 last year, I wouldn't go above 50 this year. Make it, again, gradual. If you're doing too much of a drastic jump, you might not be ready for it. And I always say, I would rather err on the side of conservative and do a little bit less, because it's easier to add to that than it is to have to take 2 steps back because we did too much and got hurt. And then you're working from behind. Okay. I always want to put my athletes ahead of the curve. Is there a specific way to know what pace to be running for some? Well, summer training, I mean, you obviously want to, a lot of it you go by feel, but it also really depends on the time of day that you're running. It is going to feel like you're working twice as hard because it's super hot. So, but I encourage you to just go based on what you ran a recent 5K or a mile in and set your training paces accordingly. And try to maximize shade running as much as you possibly can. How do we know what pace to go at for the summer? Yeah. Same thing, Mir. Oh, is that you, Mir? All right. Mike, is that you, Mir? All right. How much mileage should you build as a rising sophomore girl? As a sophomore girl, I mean, go to 30. Generally, if you go, let's just say 25 weeks as a freshman, 30 as a soph, 35 as a junior, 40 as a senior. That's a pretty good progression. Some people do a little bit more, some people do a little bit less. It really depends. There's individualized components in coaching philosophy that takes place. So, and coaches tend to sometimes prefer higher mileage, and that's fine. Some folks prefer lower mileage, and that's fine. I like to individualize when it's appropriate to. So, because not everybody can handle the high volume. Not everybody needs a low volume. So this is where you kind of individualize components of training, but you can still maintain the same type of training philosophy while you're addressing training needs. Do I recommend a low gravity treadmill over cross training? Not necessarily. I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but if you need alternative means of cross training to either stay healthy, then take advantage. If you need to bike or swim, take advantage of it. Most definitely. Whatever you need to do to stay healthy and continue to progress your fitness forward is the key. I think it depends on you. Yeah. But any of the questions, Ken? Any of the questions on YouTube? I want to thank you all for coming and joining me. This is really good. I hope you got a lot out of it. I really do. So, and Tommy, thank you for great questions and great dialogue. It's always nice when a coach comes in here, knows what you're talking about, and brings value to the conversation. So I appreciate you. Thank you. What I think of summer club track before cross country. I mean, personally, I don't see the need for having to race over the summer, but some people do. And I would, if people feel the need to do it, then they, it's up to them to do that. But I would, as a coach, would want to know, and I would modify their race schedule in the fall. Because the last thing I want to do as a coach is over race my athletes, right? I don't care what my athletes run early October, late September in cross country. I care what they run in November when the big meets are here, period. I want them running their best when it counts the most. And that's the name of the game. Incoming junior in high school, looking for a new watch. You can come and join me tomorrow, Wee Wizard, if you can. I'll look into those watches and I'll have some. I mean, a basic stopwatch is fine too. That just takes splits. I mean, unless you want a polar, which can take your heart rate and stuff like that. But unless you really know how to use it, unless your coach is really emphasizing that, I wouldn't overcomplicate it. But tomorrow I'm doing summer-based training for incoming juniors. So please join me tomorrow if you can. So, and lastly, you race 800 as your main. Winter is more miles slower and summer the other way. Are you running cross country, Jack? All right, gang. Thank you for joining me, YouTube. Have a great day and a great season. Talk to you next time.